Did the LA Kings just get a statement win? And even the biggest Jim Miller critics have to admit, for at least one game, his moves paid off. We'll get into all of that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly podcast and YouTube show that recaps the night in the NHL. And I'm a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Well, the LA Kings played game number 14 of the NHL season. And frankly, I thought this was a huge challenge and a huge opportunity for the Kings. They hosted a very good Winnipeg Jets team. The Jets were undefeated on the road this year at 4-0. They were top 10 in average goals scored per game and average goals allowed per game. They were top 10 in power play percentage and penalty kill percentage. And they were facing an LA Kings team that had been just disjointed for most of the season and was still looking for its first home win of the year. Well, the Kings win 3-0. Adrian Kempe gets the first period goal. Kevin Fiala gets a power play goal in the third period, and then Drew Doughty iced it with an empty net goal in the victory, all in support of Darcy Kemper, who gets his first shutout of the season. As for the game stats in this one, Kings win at 3-0. Shots on goal favored LA 26-23. Power play. The Kings went 1 for 6 while the Jets went 0 for 5. Faceoff percentage heavily favored the Kings 67.7% to the Jets 37.3%. Hits favored the Jets 16-13. Block shots favored Winnipeg 15-10. So my big takeaway from this game, there are actually two of them. One, I was very happy to see the Kings play this game with a sense of urgency. They played like a desperate hockey team, but in a good way. They were flying around the ice. They were aggressive. They took the play to the Winnipeg Jets. Now, was it perfect? No, but it was, I think, exactly what this team needed, and it is what got the job done in this game. My other big takeaway is that the roster moves that Jim Miller made worked for at least one game. So what were those roster moves if you don't know? Well, Joel Armia was promoted to the top line, the Andrei Kopitar line, along with Adrian Kempe. Andrei Kuzmenko was dropped down to the third line, the Philip Deneau line with Deneau and Trevor Moore. Mikey Anderson moved back up from the third pairing to the first pairing with Drew Doughty, and Brian Dumoulin was moved from the top pairing down to the third pairing with Cody Ceci. I was not a fan of these moves. I said so in our last episode. I didn't like Joel Armia playing on the Kopitar line. I just don't feel like he's a top six forward. I didn't care for Andrei Kuzmenko being on the third line, and I didn't care for the Kings going back to the defensive pairings that were not effective in early on in the season, especially the Dumoulin Ceci line. Well, again, for one game, it all worked out. And we will get more into the details of how those players played with the players that they played with. There was also another move that worked out. I wasn't quite as down on this one. I could see the writing on the wall when it came to changing on the power play. But Corey Perry played on the top power play unit, and Andrei Kuzmenko was moved to the second power play unit, and that got positive results as well. So bottom line, this is a very, very good win for the LA Kings, not only in terms of the way the Kings played, but in terms of beating a really quality opponent as well. When they did get a goal, they, or I should say, when they had to get a goal, the Kings got a goal in key opportunities where they needed to take advantage of those opportunities. And once they got a lead, even though we'd love for it to be, more than a goal or two, But they never allowed Winnipeg to really mount any kind of a comeback. So is this a statement win for the LA Kings? I would say yes. I think it is a statement. I think it's a statement to themselves. I think it's a statement to the fans as far as what kind of team this team can be when they play that desperate brand of hockey and when they are showing, that commitment to playing to their identity. But it can only be a statement win if it leads to better things going forward. It needs to lead to a more consistent effort. It needs to lead to more wins. If the Kings come out and lay an egg on Thursday against the Florida Panthers, then, well, it will just be one nice win. But I think this win can be a win that they can look back on during the season and say that was the win that got us going. I think it's that kind of a win, but it is up to them to make sure that it is something that they build off of. It's not just one great effort and then it's back to the problems they had before. Great game, a lot of good things to build on. All the moves worked pretty much, and now you take it from here. So we'll see how it goes from here, but it was a very good win for the LA Kings. Did want to check in on the minutes as far as the defensemen, something we're keeping a track on all season long. Drew Doughty played 23 minutes and 22 seconds. Pretty reasonable number for him. I'd say 23 minutes and under is a pretty good total for Drew Doughty. And it was a nice night for Drew Doughty, which we'll explain more later. Mikey Anderson back up on that pairing with Drew. 18 minutes and 59 seconds. He was second on the team, only by 5 seconds over Brian Dumoulin, who played 18 minutes and 54 seconds. Joel Edmondson played 17 minutes and 23 seconds. Cody Ceci, 16 minutes and 21 seconds. And Brant Clark, back down to the bottom, 14 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm not going to get concerned about this right now. The focus is the win. As the season goes along, we're going to keep track of this and see how it may or may not progress when it comes to Brant Clark. And, the special teams issues really doesn't fly in this one because while the Kings were shorthanded a lot, they also had a bunch of power play opportunities. So that would seem to, add minutes to Brant Clark's time on ice. But again, for now, we'll leave that issue for another time. I did want to kind of pass along that after 2 games with Brant Clark playing over 20 minutes, he was now back down at the bottom there. Special teams. It's been an issue for the Kings all season long, and it was still an issue to some respect in this one. But I thought the team's penalty kill in this one was as good as it's been all season long. I talked about playing with desperation. Maybe no better example of that than was the Kings' penalty kill. They were in the Jets' business all night long when they had the power play. They did not give the Jets any time and space to do what they wanted to do. Now, this is a 1-goal game for most of the night, so the Jets had several opportunities, specifically on the power play, to get right back in the game, and the Kings' penalty kill did not allow that to happen. Now, the Jets were okay in getting the puck in the zone, but LA did a great job of keeping all of their shots from the outside, breaking up plays and clearing the zone frequently to prevent Winnipeg from getting any kind of momentum from all their power play opportunities. As for the Kings' power play, it didn't do much to improve its percentage of success, but in a big moment, when the Kings got a big power play opportunity, they cashed in. It was a huge insurance goal that made it 2-0. So one of the rare times this year, I would say the Kings won the special teams battle. As far as the penalty breakdown, another storyline we're keeping track of until we don't have to anymore. The Kings took 2 penalties in the opening period, a too many men on the ice penalty, which was killed off. And that's a careless penalty. That's a preventable penalty. And then Andrei Kopitar took his second minor of the season. High sticking call. It was the right call. Not a good penalty. The Kings, though, killed it off. In the second period, Alex Turcotte was called for hooking. It was a good penalty. Turcotte took away a direct scoring chance because of that penalty. That is an acceptable penalty. And the Kings killed that one off as well. Brant Clark in the third period was called for interference. That was not a good penalty. The Kings killed it off. And probably the worst penalty of the night was Kevin Fiala taking a tripping penalty in the offensive zone. The Kings were up 1-0 at that point, and you thought maybe that was going to be the one that was going to bite him. It did not happen, thankfully. But there were still some penalties taken that the Kings need to be better at. So what did LA Kings head coach Jim Hiller have to say about this win and the Kings' performance? He said afterwards, quote, "I think we definitely played to our identity, and you have to start there, and you can't come off that because when you get in all kinds of trouble, because then you get in all kinds of trouble. We're going to start scoring more. I really believe that. We got some really good looks again tonight. Hellebuck played well, but we'll take the 0 and we'll take the win." End quote. I did think the Kings actually got some pretty good looks. I think in particular, the Jets goaltender, oh, by the way, the reigning league MVP, made some big saves. In particular, there was a Quentin Byfield shot he made a nice save on, and there was a Corey Perry shot he made a really big save on. So I do agree with what Jim Hiller had to say. I think the Kings got back to their identity, playing that good, stingy defense, getting good goaltending, and then just enough offense to get by. But again, I love the Kings playing with desperation in this game, with that energy, with that we're going after you type of play. And it turned out that it worked and they got a big win out of it. All right, up next, we're going to talk specifically about the Kings lineup changes and how those players played in their new roles. We'll do that next year on Locked In LA Kings, your team every day. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have a full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface for your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals and smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can maximize investments, increase your savings rate, easily review finances with your partner or financial advisor while keeping a clear view of your financial health week to week and long term. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com to get half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, definitely want to get into some of the individual performances from the Kings' big 3-0 shutout win over the Winnipeg Jets. And by the way, it was a night of milestones for several LA Kings. But we're going to start with the goaltender, Darcy Kuemper. Stopped all 23 shots he saw for his first shutout of the season, his 37th career shutout. Kuemper made several big saves. I also thought, though, he was fighting the puck a bit all night long. There were times when he was really scrambling in his net. The second period, he made a nice save with his blocker, and then it went up in the air and it came down off his back. He did have a really big save also in the second period on a Jets shorthanded opportunity. While he wasn't necessarily as clean as I have seen him, the bottom line is keeping the puck out of your net. And he obviously did that as well as you can. He got the shutout, and Darcy Kuemper played very, very well in this game. Drew Doughty, if you're watching on YouTube and you're like, why is he wearing a red jersey? I'm wearing my Team Canada Drew Doughty jersey from the World Hockey Classic from many years ago. I thought it was appropriate considering that the Kings veteran defenseman scored into an empty net for his 162nd career NHL goal. And with that goal, he passed Rob Blake for the most goals by a defenseman in LA Kings history. Doughty was asked about it afterwards, and he said, quote, "It feels special for sure. It's a huge honor. I looked up to Rob Blake as a young boy being an LA Kings fan. When you come into this league, it's never something you even think of. So it's kind of shocking that this all happened, but obviously very proud and so thankful for the organization and my teammates especially. Couldn't have done it without them." End quote. For Drew Doughty, he now has 2 goals and 3 assists for 5 points on the season. So very good for Drew Doughty. I thought he had a really good game in this one. And there was a moment where I was like, whoa, Drew, okay. He was leading a rush down the ice, puck ended up getting turned over, and he busted his ass getting back on defense to make a nice defensive play to break up a scoring chance the other way. So I know he considers himself an old guy. I don't know if you saw the Anze Kopitar mic'd up thing from the season opener, but he and Drew Doughty were talking about how they're the old guys on the team now. But that old dog Drew Doughty got a little bit left in the tank there, at least on that play. I was like, wow, that was impressive. But congratulations to Drew Doughty, very well deserved, and the greatest defenseman in LA Kings history and future Hall of Famer. Adrian Pay That Man Kempe scored the Kings' first goal of the game, his 6th of the season, tied for the team lead. It was also his 200th career goal, another milestone. He is the 10th different LA King to amass 200 goals, all with the Kings, and he now leads the Kings in points with 16. Just a great finish by Adrian Kempe, being in the right place at the right time, crashing the net, and being right there in the slot to put home the Kings' first goal and what turned out to be the only goal they would need. That's the game-winning goal. All right, Corey Perry, another milestone. He played in his 1,400th career game. Perry currently 5th in games played amongst active players. Anze Kopitar's 4th. For this game, Perry was put on the Kings' number 1 power play unit, and the move paid off. Kings were up 1-0 in the third. Perry was in front of the net. He got high-sticked in the face, got cut. The Jets were penalized with a double minor, gave LA a 2-man advantage, and then eventually a power play in which Kevin Fiala would score on. Corey Perry had the primary assist on that second goal of the game, an insurance goal for the Kings. So Perry draws the penalty by being in front of the net, where he is so effective, and he gets the assist, the primary assist on the goal as well. So that move clearly paid off in this game, putting him on that number 1 power play unit. In his 8 games as a member of the LA Kings, Corey Perry has 8 points, 5 goals, and 3 assists. And in his time with the Kings, their record is 5-1-2. Joel Armia moved up to the Kopitar line along with Kopitar and Adrian Kempe. And the Kings decided to do this because they wanted a more of a blue collar forward to go along with Kopitar and Kempe, somebody who is not afraid to go into the corners. Not that Kopitar and Kempe are. They're not. They will go into the corners with anybody. But somebody who was a little more black and white around the net, maybe. And guess what? Joel Armia did exactly what the Kings were looking for. He was around the net. He was on the forecheck. He was winning battles in the corners and along the boards, and made a great play on the Kings' first goal of the game. Turned out to be the game winner. Had the puck behind the net, then moved to his left and put a perfect backhand pass right on the stick of Adrian Kempe in the slot, who scored. Great decision, great execution by Joel Armia, who absolutely made that play happen. For Armia, he has 2 goals and 5 assists for 7 points now on the season. So that move worked out in this game. Andrei Kuzmenko, I thought he played well on the no line. I thought he played well on the second power play unit, brought a lot of energy to both. He came really close to scoring on the power play, just couldn't get the shot off quick enough on a nice cross-ice pass. I kind of liked seeing him and Trevor Moore playing together. I think they may be able to play off each other. I am going to be very curious, though, to see what do the Kings do to their lineup once Warren Foegele comes back. Now, clearly, Jeff Malott would be the odd man out to come out of the lineup, but who are they going to put on the fourth line? I wonder if maybe it's Warren Foegele. I can't imagine it would be Kuzmenko, but we shall see if they're going to keep Armia on that Kopitar line anyway. So speaking of Warren Foegele, did want to give you a quick update on him. He's back at practice Tuesday. He was at practice wearing a red non-contact jersey. And once the next step will be obviously him practicing without that jersey, and then he should be back on the ice for game action shortly thereafter. Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin paired together on that third pairing. It was explained during the broadcast that the reason for their lack of success early in the year was perhaps due to being 2 new players playing in a new system and not knowing really how to play with each other at that point. So that's why the switch was made back. Also because they wanted to give Mikey Anderson a bigger role and have him play more minutes. I think that's a reasonable theory as far as why they had their difficulties early on. Hopefully that was the case and they can play much better going forward from here on out if they are, in fact, going to be paired together. I thought both Dumoulin and CC played a fine game. Obviously, they were not on the ice for any goals against, and they were both a part of that Kings very good penalty kill. As far as some overall stats in this one, nobody on the Kings had a multi-point game. You had goals from Kempe, Fiala, and Doughty, and assists from Armia, Perry, Byfield, and Anderson. Philip Deneau and Joel Edmondson each tied for a team-high 4 shots on goal. I did not see Philip Deneau and Joel Edmondson leading the Kings in shots on goal. Alex Laferriere did a lot of dirty work in this one. He had 3 block shots to lead the team, and he had 4 hits to lead the team. Time on ice leader was, of course, Drew Doughty, 23 minutes and 22 seconds. Quentin Byfield was the only Kings forward that played over 20 minutes in the game. And Philip Deneau was the Kings' best faceoff man. He won 8 of 9 faceoffs, and Andrzej Kopitar won 14 of 19 faceoffs. So the Kings got it done in the faceoff circle in this one, and that is a nice thing to do as well. All right, I have not talked about a key play and a key call made by the referees in this game. I will address it, and I hope I am consistent with my opinion. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who'll score next to a fourth quarter comeback. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps the game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for an early season game. But let's get real. Getting tickets can sometimes be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your favorite team. That's where Gametime comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that what you see is what you pay. There's no hidden fees at checkout. Plus, I see exactly what my view is going to look like before I buy the ticket with their in-app seat view feature. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Gametime picks the seat, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, so there was a key moment in this game early on that I have not discussed yet. We're going to talk about it right now. The Winnipeg Jets actually scored the first goal of this game in the first period, but it was waved off by the referees for goalie interference. 11:37 left in the first period, scoreless. Winnipeg Jets defenseman Josh Morrissey puts a shot from the point on net, traffic in front. It goes off Drew Doughty. Then Darcy Kemper makes the save, but then he accidentally knocked the puck into his own net with the stick as it just trickled over the goal line. But the referee immediately waved off the goal and said goalie interference. Real time, I did not see goalie interference. Watching the replay, I did not see goalie interference. Now, former King, now Jet forward Gabe Vilardi was standing at the top of the crease. His skates were just barely in the crease. And he does make very slight contact with Kings goalie Darcy Kemper. I do not believe for a second that contact had anything to do with Darcy Kemper's ability to try and make a save or play his position in that situation. I think goals like that should be allowed. It is minor incidental contact. That said, if they would have allowed this one to count after taking away Kevin Fiala's overtime game winner against Detroit on a similar call, I would have been very, very unhappy. So while I hate that goalie interference is being officiated this way, that referees take away goals for very, very minor, inconsequential contact. I will have to say that the referees do seem to be consistent with this call as far as what I've seen. The Winnipeg Jets did challenge the call. Video review upheld the referee's call on the ice that it was goalie interference and it was no goal. So I think we all want consistency. I think I'm being consistent with my distaste as a hockey fan that goals like this should be allowed. Again, if you're not preventing the goalie from playing his position, if it's just incidental contact, I think those goals should be allowed to count. I thought that was the case for Kevin Fiala, and I think that was the case for Gabe Vilardi. However, as I said, the NHL was consistent in not allowing the goals on both of those calls. As much as I dislike that the way that rule is being officiated, if they call it the same way every time, then I can at least say they're being consistent with it, because that's all you want. You may not like a rule, but if it's called the same way all the time, then it's fair for everybody. And in this case, like I said, even though I didn't agree with it, the call has been consistent. So if you're in the crease, even if you make minor incidental contact with the goalie, they apparently are not going to allow any goals to count when that happens. All right, let's pass out our 3 crowns for our 3 players of the game. We're obviously going to go with Darcy Kemper, who got the shutout, 23 saves in this one. Adrian Kempe gets the game-winning goal, the only goal early on, and the only goal the Kings would end up needing. And I'm going to give Kevin Fiala one of the crowns as well. Kevin, I didn't think played a great game in this one. He was sometimes he does this. He flies around the ice and he looks like he's playing hard, but he doesn't really do much. And he took that bad penalty. However, he scored a huge goal on a nice shot. And that's why you'll put up with some of Kevin's stuff, if you will. He may be kind of just out there at times. He may even do something that isn't great, but he can also still put the puck in the net. And he's tied with Adrian Kempe for the team lead in goals with 6. You'll put up with some of his stuff if he can put that puck in the net. All right, so the Kings again are now 6-4-4 on their season. They finally get that first home win of the year, a much-needed win, and now build off it. Next game's Thursday night as they'll wrap up their 4-game homestand against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. All right, for you everydayers, those who listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on our next show, Kings reporter and radio color analyst Daryl Evans is going to stop by, talk about this latest win for the Kings and what he has seen so far from the LA Kings. Of course, we have our fan feedback show coming up at the end of the week. If you want to get an email in for that, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. You're always welcome to post your thoughts on each show if you're watching on YouTube in the comments section. And we'd love you to stay connected with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.